Time for some predictions. Today I'm predicting the entire 2026 NASCAR Cup Series schedule, and I'm also predicting slash speculating where 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports charters could end up after next week if they do end up losing their charters. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Talking NASCAR, episode 18. I'm your host, Andrew, and yesterday I brought the news forth that 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports could lose their charters as soon as next week. So today I'm kind of following up on that statement and news. Yesterday, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals denied the team's request to rehear the appeal that NASCAR made on the preliminary injunction, which granted the teams 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports to compete this season 2025 in the NASCAR Cup Series as charter teams, which would allow them to bypass the restriction in the new charter agreement that was signed late last season. That there's a clause, I should say. There's a clause in the current charter agreement that says that all teams signing this agreement cannot sue NASCAR. But getting this preliminary injunction means they would receive the same payout after every single race as the charter teams would, even though they technically do not want to fully take part in the charter agreements and their restrictions. The ruling judge for the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals said, quote, that the teams shall not have their cake and eat it too. That's not how it is going to go. That's kind of me paraphrasing it a little bit more, but you get the point. The teams are trying to receive the benefits of the charter agreement while not really trying to be under the charter agreement. So that's kind of what they were going for. Then the teams asked for a rehearing, but that was denied yesterday, which means that the current ruling, the appeal that NASCAR asked for, is going to be granted, and the teams shall not have their charters as soon as next week if NASCAR so chooses, but it's pretty likely that they will not have their charters next weekend for Dover. Now, this does not affect any of the drivers' current points or playoff standings, so Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, they will not be affected by this. They will not be out of the playoffs as long as they show up for every single race and attempt to qualify for every single race. They will be in the playoffs. It's a different matter if they miss a race. That does affect if they stay in the playoffs or if they lose points or not. So that is a pretty big trade-off in that regard. So teams have the possibility of missing the races. So they could potentially lose out on purse money, what limited purse money they will receive, and points going towards their NASCAR championship. Again, if you want some full breakdown and analysis of yesterday's ruling and the repercussions that will come with this ruling, go check out yesterday's episode. I posted it yesterday. I hope you guys will listen to it and maybe you'll understand more of what I'm saying here. But let's go ahead and get into some predictions. Where could the team's charters go if NASCAR chooses to repossess these charters? Could NASCAR sell them? Could NASCAR just hold on to them and only 32 full-time Cup cars will be racing next year? What are the chances of that? What could happen? So I predict that NASCAR will sell these charters off as soon as they can or try to get rid of them, assuming that the lawsuit goes in favor of the sanctioning body and 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports really can't receive their charters back for damages. So I'm going to list some teams that probably will take each one of these charters. So both teams have 6 charters, 3 charters each for each team. And I have 2 charters, each going to Rick Ware Racing. Yes, you heard me right. Rick Ware Racing. Just about 2 weeks ago, Rick Ware Racing was purchased by TJ Puncher and keeping Rick Ware on as a partner. And even though Rick Ware Racing is involved in a lawsuit against Legacy Motor Club, I still think that from this lawsuit, if the this current lawsuit, the antitrust lawsuit, goes in favor of NASCAR and there are 6 charters up for grabs, Rick Ware Racing will want to buy 2 of them because Rick Ware and TJ Puncher have come out publicly and said, we want to build a 3-car team. And in their current state, I really don't see it happening. But if this lawsuit goes in the way of NASCAR, those 6 charters being up for grabs, That'll make it so much easier. They'll probably be for a discounted price, and then Rick Ware Racing can just scoop them up and let one of those charters that they were going to sell to Legacy Motor Club go there, kind of settle that. And so you'll eventually have Legacy Motor Club getting one charter, Rick Ware Racing having two charters, and then you have them leasing out another charter to RFK Racing. So that would mean that Rick Ware Racing would have two charters, or technically own three charters, but leasing one out to RFK. Now, honestly, Rick Ware Racing might want to just sell that third charter that they are leasing out to RFK after that lease is over with, and so RFK can have their third full time charter and really own one, so they're not really leasing one. So, two charters already off the board. That would mean Rick Ware Racing, technically TJ Puncher, would have the 15 car and the 51 car. I really can't imagine who would be in those cars. Again, I'm not really predicting who would be in there. I expect Cody Ware would be in one of those cars, and then maybe you could see someone like Harrison Burton, maybe Sam Mayer, who drives for Haas Factory Team, or Sheldon Creed gets the call full time. But more likely than not, I would see probably a rotation of Harrison Burton, Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed. Maybe you get a Cam Waters mixed in there. Maybe Jensen Button, who has driven for Rick Ware Racing before, comes over and runs some road course races. Maybe Andy Lally, who I know has driven for Rick Ware Racing in the past. Maybe he is a driver that gets a call. Or you have one of Front Row Racing's drivers takes over that seat, either Todd Gilliland, Zane Smith, or Noah Gregson. There's a lot of options here. I would expect that probably Todd Gilliland would get the call because he has raced for Rick Ware Racing in the past in the 15 when he was kind of platooning in a ride with Zane Smith, and Front Row Motorsports ended up going with Todd Gilliland full time for 2024, and I think that would end up being the right move, but they got both their drivers anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, probably Todd Gilliland would be in the 15, and then you would have probably Cody Ware in the 51, maybe Rick Ware Racing would jump on Zane Smith or Noah Gregson to pilot that second car, but realistically, I don't think any of those drivers are really in their salary range, and they can really only afford one. So that's my prediction there. Rick Ware Racing buys two charters out of the four and brings Todd Gilliland in full time to drive one of them. Now, as for Legacy Motor Club, who would buy one of Rick Ware Racing's original charters, and I'm expecting they would have their third car, and I'm expecting they would use the number 46 because we've seen Thad Moffitt use that truck in Xfinity and that number, and also I maybe the number 94. I'm just kind of going kind of loose here and not really scripted. Like maybe the 94 because Maury Gallagher, when he was coming into the Cup Series for the first time with GMS Racing, he was planning on using the 94, but once he partnered with Richard Petty and Richard Petty Motorsports, they changed to the number 42, but now they really can't use any more of those numbers in the 40s except the 46 and maybe the 49. I'm not really sure on that. I might have to double check that. So I'm expecting the 46 to be used. And I think that Bubba Wallace would probably get the call because Richard Petty and Bubba Wallace know each other pretty well. I mean, Bubba Wallace drove the 43 for Richard Petty Motorsports back in the day. So I'm expecting that they still know each other pretty well. And it's a Toyota team, and Bubba brings a little bit of sponsorship and funding with McDonald's, Columbia Sportswear, all those sponsors. So I think Legacy Motor Club would really want to take that guy on. Bubba Wallace would be a great driver. He'd kind of be on the anchor alongside Eric Jones, who Eric Jones and Bubba Wallace have known each other for a good amount of time. And then you got John Nemechek in the 42. So I think Bubba Wallace will probably pilot that third Legacy Motor Club car. Next up, I have another charter being sold to the Haas factory team and Gene Haas, and I expect them to bring in Zane Smith. He is a Ford driver. He has a good relationship with Ford. He just came back to the Ford system this year, and for a while in 2023, he was rumored to have been taking the number 10 car after Eric Almirola retired from Stuart Haas Racing, and that ended up going to over to Noah Gregson. And then I would think Noah Gregson would be a good guy for Haas to bring in because he's familiar with the team. He's been around some of the guys like Cole Custer. He's been around Joe Custer a little bit. He's been around Gene Haas a little bit. But I have Noah Gregson actually going to another team. And I also have Zane Smith heading over to the Haas team, another Ford team. So that's three charters down, three drivers down, three left, three charters left, I should say, and three drivers left. So I have another one of those charters actually going to Hayek Motorsports, and I actually have them kind of collaborating and partnering with Junior Motorsports. Yes, you heard me right. So I have Juniors Motorsports jumping up to the Cup Series full time in partnership with Hayek Motorsports. Probably they'll be operating out of Hayek Motorsports' shop. They'll also be leasing engines from HendrickCars.com and Hendrick because Junior Motorsports actually ran and used Hendrick Motorsports engines. So, and Dale Jr.'s got a good relationship with Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon. So that would mean Noah Gregson will head over to Junior Motorsports and drive the number 40 car. Yes, you heard that right. So Noah Gregson, who used to drive for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Junior Motorsports back in Xfinity and almost won a championship with them, won several races though with them. He'll be reuniting with Dale Jr. and he'll drive the number 40 car for Junior Motorsports in partnership with Hayek Motorsports. All right, two charters left and two drivers left. So here's kind of another little boring one here. I expect Calling Racing to buy one of those charters up and bring Daniel Suarez in to drive that third car full time. Daniel Suarez has some little bit of relationship with Calling Racing. Calling Racing has a deep technical alliance with Trackhouse Racing, who also has a technical alliance with RCR, but I still think that Daniel Suarez, he's got a bit of a relationship there. Also, Ty Norris is there. He is the current president, or not president, excuse me. He is working for Calling Racing. Ty Norris was there when Daniel Suarez was still there. So I believe Daniel Suarez will head over to Calling in one of those new charters. And the last charter I have heading over to Tricon Garage for the number 56 car. I believe Tricon Garage will jump up to the Cup Series full time, and I believe Tyler Reddick will come on over. He'll be in alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. They really haven't paired together very much, and I don't really know how well their relationship is. But Tyler Reddick, it's a Toyota team, and realistically, it's a Joe Gibbs Racing car or aligned car, and it's a Toyota car. So I think Tyler Reddick would want to go there because Calling Racing, I don't know about that. Maybe a Junior Motorsports. I know he did drive for Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series a couple years ago, but I think that heading over to another Toyota team, staying in the Toyota system, it's a good idea for Tyler Reddick heading over to the number 56 car for Tricon Garage. And that does mean that Riley Herbst would be out of a Cup Series ride. I think he'll make some Cup Series starts, maybe for Rick Ware Racing if Cody Ware maybe cannot make a race for some reason. He's had reasons before. Maybe Riley Herbst will run for a Toyota team part time or another team part time, but I expect that he'll head back to Xfinity full time because of his sponsorship. He just really doesn't have the talent, I feel, to be a Cup Series driver. So there's all my predictions on where the six charters and six drivers will go. Five of them will stay in the Cup Series, Riley Herbst being the exception. He'll be heading back down to Xfinity. But let me know in the comments, where do you think each of these charters will go, if they go anywhere, or if 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports do end up keeping their charters. Let me know down in the comments your predictions. All right, moving on to my 2026 NASCAR Cup Series predictions. We already have a couple confirmed. I mean, the Daytona 500 is an obvious one. The Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium was just confirmed yesterday. And a couple months ago, Homestead, Miami was confirmed to be the site of the 2026 championship race. Now, depending on where some of the playoff format goes, if we still have a one race finale, if we still have the current playoff format at all, things could change. But here is my current schedule predictions with the right now current playoff format. Again, things could change and some of the schedule kind of get flipped around, but here are my predictions. Starting off, of course, on February 1st with the Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Then the next week, February 8th, will be an off week for the Super Bowl. But the next week, on President's Day weekend, will be the Daytona 500 on February 15th. Next week, February 22nd, will be the return to Atlanta Motor Speedway or Echo Park Speedway. Has really good racing there. The next gen car really has kind of found its groove there. As the age of the surface starts to carry on, the racing, I believe, will only just get better. And the ratings have been good there. And I think Fox will want to pounce on that. Next weekend at March 1st will be Circuit of the Americas. I know this was the final year of the current contract with Circuit of the Americas, but they have been handing out renewals to several different motorsports. So I think NASCAR will want to return. So they will be the third regular season points date. Here's my really first change on March 8th. I have Las Vegas moving up 1 week into this fourth slot. I think the racing at Las Vegas, it kind of fits, and I think Las Vegas really should be the fifth or fourth week every single season. And then next week, Phoenix, March 15th. I kind of have Las Vegas and Phoenix flip flopping there. So those are the first 5 races of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. Ooh, here's a really nice curveball I got here. On March 22nd, I have the inaugural San Diego Street Race. That's right. There have been some rumors, I know. Maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe the Chicago Street Race will stay. But if you're going to go anywhere else with the street race, why not San Diego? I mean, Chicago does want it to return, but I feel like it's operating at a loss, the Chicago Street Race. So why not try a new market, the Southern California market of San Diego? Fox is headquartered in Los Angeles. That's not too far down the road. So why not that? The San Diego Street Race on March 22nd. And another big change right after it on March 29th, I have Kansas moving up to the 7th race of the season. Kansas is one of the best races on the NASCAR Cup Series calendar. It's really good for the next gen car. So why not keep it in the schedule in the regular season and move it up a couple weeks? And then next up on April 5th for Easter Sunday, I've NASCAR returning to Bristol Motor Speedway. I know some people don't like the racing for Bristol Motor Speedway, but I really think that was kind of based off of last year with Kyle Larson. And I'm hoping we can get back to the kind of crazy tire wear race that we saw back in 2024. So maybe that can happen. I think that would really help. And it's still April. The weather can still be pretty cold. Maybe we get to a night race where the track temps are really, really cold. But realistically, Easter Sunday at Bristol Motor Speedway, the last great Coliseum, I think it's a great race. Here's another big change on April 12th. I have NASCAR heading to Sonoma. I would love to see Sonoma have a spring date, not this like gray, sunny. Like I know the sun's cool, but it can still be sunny in April. But I want to see a Sonoma race where the grass is fully grown and green, the trees are in full bloom. Maybe not this just dusty, dead, and kind of rotted racetrack with the grass. So maybe that can be something I would really love to see Sonoma become a spring day. And then next week, another big change, April 19th. North Wilkesboro gets its first NASCAR Cup Series points race in a very, very long time, and this will be the throwback weekend. And I do have, unfortunately, Darlington, the Lady in Black, losing one of its dates. The Darlington crowd for the throwback weekend hasn't really been the best. So why not head to North Wilkesboro, which is honestly one of the better short tracks in NASCAR. It's out of that All-Star race slot and it becomes the throwback weekend slot. Next week on April 26th, I have Talladega moving up a couple spots, then Texas as well on May 3rd. And then on May 10th, I have a Martinsville night race. I know the temperatures may drop down a little bit, but it's in May. I was going to originally have this race around the April 12th, April 5th area, but I decided to move it back a little bit more into the second week of May. I think that would be really cool to see. I love Martinsville night races. I feel like there's not enough of those. So why not get a night race? Kind of have a similar ending to, well, hopefully not to, like, I would say a 2022 Martinsville spring race. So May 10th, Martinsville night race. And then next week, May 17th, I have Rockingham for the All-Star race. That's another big change this year, for my schedule at least. I would love to see Rockingham become one of those kind of tracks that gets its tryout. We saw North Wilkesboro Speedway get that in 2023. Then they repaved it, and last year was the test out again. And then this year was another test out for North Wilkesboro Speedway, except it's now going to be a points paying race. Kind of the same thing I got going here with Rockingham. It's a grassroots track. I think the next gen car could potentially race pretty good here. It's a little bit smaller than a mile and a half. It's got some high banking. I think it'd be a pretty cool race. Now we move on to the Prime Video section of the schedule, starting off on May 24th with the Coca-Cola 600. It's a pretty standard date. It has to stay in the same spot. The next week, I have Nashville. I think Nashville, keeping it earlier in the year so the heat isn't as bad, it makes it better for the fans, especially since Nashville, for some reason, will not allow fans to bring in their own drinks and coolers. So it keeps the fans cool. I like it. I like that idea. Next week, I have NASCAR returning to Mexico City, moved up a couple weeks or two. So Mexico City on June 7th. I think it was a good race. I'm not sure if we have kind of the same atmosphere or same attitude about it from the drivers, if the teams cannot really handle themselves appropriately. Maybe I'm going to have to consider probably replacing this date for 2027. But for right now, I think Mexico City does deserve another date. Michigan will be next on June 15th. It's been a really good track for the next gen car more recently. And on June 21st, I have Chicagoland returning to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule for the final race of Prime Video's coverage. NASCAR wants to stay in the Chicago area, and instead of going back to Chicagoland back in 2020, they decided to go with the Chicago Street Race a couple years later. This time, I have them doing the opposite, leaving the Chicago Street Race behind and heading to Chicagoland Speedway. It does need a little bit of work, but they've done a really good job of maintaining it. The track surface still looks pretty solid, a couple weeds here and there, and then the grass looks maintained. The grandstands look pretty maintained. Actually, Carson Hocevar, current NASCAR Cup Series driver, made a video on his YouTube channel about him touring the facility by himself, and the grandstands look pretty good. A little bit of overgrowth, and the tunnels, they need some work, but I think you can get that done in relatively less than a year. So that would be really cool to see Chicagoland Speedway back on the schedule June 21st. Now we get to TNT's coverage on June 28th. Shocker. They're starting off with an off week. It's going to be heading into the 18th race of the year. I feel like it's a good time to have an off break, the mid-season weekend. So next weekend on July 5th, a day after you have the 4th of July, I have NASCAR returning to Road America. Now, of course, I may be a little bit biased, but I would love to see NASCAR and the Cup Series return to Road America. They were there back in 2022, and I thought the racing was still pretty solid. So I would love to see NASCAR return to Road America. NASCAR's president of Road America does want to see NASCAR return to Road America. So why not? 4th of July, NASCAR still is on a road course for 4th of July weekend. Why not return to Road America? Next week, July 12th, we'll be at Atlanta. This is also part of the in-season challenge, by the way. That will probably still be a thing. So Atlanta will be the second race of the in-season challenge, followed by New Hampshire on July 19th. It will also return to the regular season. I'm not really sure why it's in the playoffs, to be honest. I feel like that's kind of random. I know it used to be in the playoffs when it had 2 dates, but now that's only got 1. I think it's a good idea to keep it in the regular season. So July 19th is New Hampshire back in the regular season. Next week, July 26th, I have NASCAR heading to Dover. I think it's a great track. Even though the racing can be subpar at times, I think Dover still is a really cool track to have on the schedule. And then finally, to wrap up the in-season challenge and TNT's coverage, I have on August 2nd the Indianapolis Brickyard 400. So that will be the final race for TNT's coverage heading into the full month of August. Now we move on to NBC and USA's coverage of NASCAR. Have them kicking it off on August 9th with Iowa, followed by August 16th at Pocono. I have Pocono moving back about a month, I would say, month or two. And I think Pocono, I kind of want to put Chicagoland in this area, so I'm gonna pretty much be swapping them a little bit. Dover is gonna move up into what probably the Chicagoland date would be. New Hampshire's moving up there, and instead I have Pocono moving back a couple months. And then next up on August 23rd, I have NASCAR heading to Watkins Glen International Raceway for the penultimate race of the regular season. And then, of course, having the regular season end on August 29th, a Saturday night race at Daytona International Raceway to end the regular season. Now, assuming we have the same playoff format, I will have the round of 16 being kicked off on September 6th with Darlington at the Southern 500. This will be Darlington's only date of the year. I know that may be a little bit crazy, and Darlington probably does deserve 2 dates, to be honest, but I think it's time. The racing there hasn't been great for the first month, or the first race, I should say, and the turnout hasn't always been the greatest compared to the Southern 500. Maximize that date, the ratings and the attendance will be pretty good. Followed up by Gateway. It's a pretty late September race, and the weather still should be pretty nice down in Gateway. It actually might be pretty hot down there for that Gateway race, but it'll be the second race of the round of 16. And then finally, I have the round of 16 concluding on September 20th with the Bristol night race, the first cutoff race. Then I have the round of 12 starting off with a Richmond night race on September 27th. Richmond, it's already going to lose its second date this year. So keeping it one day, moving it into the playoffs instead of keeping it at the end of the regular season. It has lights. I think it deserves to be a night race. It looks pretty cool, despite what Austin Dillon did there last year. So anyway, I'm going to look past that Richmond night race to kick off the round of 12, followed by Talladega on October 24th. I really don't like having a super speedway in the middle of the playoffs, but I think this is a really good time. It's a middle race and it's not a cutoff race, thankfully. That belongs to the Charlotte Oval. Many people have been asking for the Charlotte Oval to be taken off and just returning to the normal Charlotte Oval. They had to change the configuration so many different times in the next gen era. So I think it's time to head back to the Charlotte Oval. It's a mile and a half track. It's a good, really good cutoff race. So why not head back to the Charlotte Oval to end the round of 12? Now, moving on to the round of 8, it's of course going to be started off at Las Vegas on October 18th. Las Vegas has been hosting the opening round of the round of 8 for a very long time now. I don't know exactly how long, but I think they'll still have a deal for that with NASCAR for a very long time. Then I have Phoenix, a Phoenix night race. That would be great to have. I know I'm saying a lot of night races and it's later in the year, but it's Phoenix. It's out in the desert. It's still going to be pretty warm. And the Xfinity Series does it. The Truck Series does it. They have night race final races for the last couple years. So I think NASCAR and the Cup Series should give it an opportunity. And finally, Martinsville will be the penultimate race of the NASCAR season on November 1st, and it will all end on November 8th with Homestead Miami being the championship finale. Now, assuming we don't have any other big changes, I still think that this will be the schedule. Now, if there is some changes to the playoff format and maybe we have a 3-race round of 4, maybe some things will change. Maybe Martinsville will still be in the same round. It'll move to the championship 4 and it'll kind of be still be the penultimate race, but there will definitely be some things to change. I would still think that Darlington Summer of the 500 will still be the first race of the playoffs. It will still be on Labor Day weekend, so still got to move around that if that does happen. But rest assured, if the playoff format does change, I will be updating my schedule. I reserve the right to update my schedule as need be. But there you go. Let me know down in the comments your predictions for the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. Do you agree with my predictions? Do you think my predictions are utterly boring or utterly crazy? Let me know down in the comments. And that's all I got for you guys. Leave a like if you are listening on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you're also listening on YouTube. And give us a follow if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And that's all I got for you guys today. And I'll see you in the next episode. Also, go check out Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew. It's the other show I host with my buddy Miles Shield. He's been on the show before. That episode is somewhere up on this show somewhere. So go check it out. And I'll see you in the next episode, everybody. I'll see you later.